Hey there, it's Alex, and before we dive in I want to set the tone straight. This isn't a hype-driven unboxing. I've spent the past week watching the same series on a smaller screen, testing the picture with a mix of streamed movies, a console-generated shooter, and a couple of sports broadcasts. I've also skimmed a bunch of forums and Amazon Q&A threads to see what real owners are worrying about. If you want to check the product details on Amazon, the link is in the description. What I'm hoping to give you today is a clear sense of whether the new Samsung 77-inch Vision AI OLED actually lives up to the price tag, or if you'd be better off with a different size or even a different tech. First off, the biggest hesitation most shoppers have with a TV that large is the practical side of fitting it into a living room. A 77-inch screen is roughly 67 inches wide, which means you need a wall or a TV stand that can handle a footprint approaching 6 feet. If you're living in a typical apartment, the size alone can become a deal-breaker, not because the picture looks bad, but because the unit will dominate the room, making it hard to walk around or place other furniture. On the other hand, if your viewing distance is at least 10 feet, the immersive experience this size delivers is hard to match. That's the sweet spot the Vision AI OLED aims for, a cinematic feel without needing a dedicated home theater room. From a daily use perspective, the TV's NQ4 AI Gen 2 processor does a surprisingly subtle job. When I streamed a 1080p documentary, the upscaling didn't scream artificial, the image stayed natural, with fine details in the background that you'd normally miss. In a different test, I ran a hyped racing game through a PlayStation 5. The motion Xcelerator 120Hz kept motion blur minimal, and the colors stayed vivid thanks to the Pantone validated panel. What matters here is that the AI isn't just a marketing buzzword, it actually adapts to the content you're watching. For a drama series with muted lighting, the TV lifted shadows just enough to keep facial expressions readable without blowing out the background. Conversely, in a bright sports broadcast, the dynamic brightness and contrast kept the greens of the field saturated while still delivering crisp whites on the athletes' jerseys. Now, let's talk about the strengths that matter once the box is opened. The OLED panel delivers truly deep blacks. Because each pixel lights independently, the black levels are more akin to a cinema screen than a traditional LCD. This is most noticeable when you're watching movies with a lot of dark scenes, think horror or film noir. The color accuracy, validated by Pantone, also shines in skin tones, which is something I don't see on many competitively priced OLEDs. In my experience, people often buy a TV for family movie nights, and if the TV renders faces naturally, it feels less plastic. Another practical win is the sound system. Samsung's multidimensional audio isn't a full 5.1 surround setup, but the built-in speakers intelligently aim sound toward the listening area. When I played a dialogue-heavy drama, the voices seemed to come from the direction of the on-screen characters, which reduced the need for a separate soundbar in a moderate-size room. On the flip side, there are a few trade-offs that can be easy to overlook. First, the 77-inch OLED is a 4K panel, not a 8K one, and while the AI upscaling can improve lower-resolution material, you won't get the native detail of a true 8K display. For most streaming services, that isn't a problem because the content is capped at 4K anyway, but if you're a PC gamer who enjoys 8K titles, the extra pixel density you'd get from a larger 8K screen isn't there. Second, the TV's brightness peaks are respectable for OLED, but not as high as Samsung's own QLED line. In a bright, sun-filled living room, you might notice a slight washout compared to a high-brightness QLED. That's not a deal-breaker unless you plan to watch the TV with the lights fully on all day. Another practical consideration is the smart platform. Samsung's Tizen OS is generally slick, but the remote still feels a bit cluttered. There's a dedicated button for the voice assistant, yet the voice commands can be hit or miss when you ask for niche content like play the 1995 Olympic highlights. If you're comfortable navigating menus and using the on-screen keyboard, it works fine, otherwise, you might find yourself reaching for a secondary streaming device. Lastly, the size of the unit means that shipping and handling can be a hassle. I've read a few buyer comments about the box being difficult to maneuver through narrow hallways, and you might need a professional installation just to avoid damaging walls or the TV itself. Who should buy this? If you have a spacious living area, love high-quality movie nights, and value accurate color reproduction, especially for skin tones, this 77-inch Vision AI OLED is a solid match. It's also a good fit for gamers who need smooth motion and variable refresh rates, as